Amanda Torres never imagined that the day she would receive her Medal of Honor would be the same day she would face the greatest humiliation of her career. She was in the Jefferson County, Colorado courthouse, waiting to be called as a witness in an arson case she had investigated months earlier. She wore her impeccably pressed firefighter dress uniform, with the newly received medal pinned to her left breast, just above the pocket. It was a rare decoration, awarded only to firefighters who demonstrated exceptional courage in situations of extreme risk. Amanda had rescued 3 children from a burning building in downtown Denver, returning to the fiery inferno twice when everyone said it was too late. Judge Harold Pemberton was known for his rigidity and explosive temper. At 62, he commanded that courtroom like a general on the battlefield, tolerating 0 deviations from protocol. When Amanda entered and took her place in the witness box, she felt his gaze sweeping over her, uniform from head to toe, lingering specifically on the medal that gleamed under the fluorescent lights of the courtroom. "Miss Torres," he began, his voice echoing through the silent room. "I appreciate your service to the community, but this court has strict rules regarding dress and adornments. I will need you to remove that medal before we proceed with your testimony." Amanda blinked, certain she had misunderstood. "Excuse me, Your Excellency, but this is an official medal from the Denver Fire Department. It's part of my dress uniform. I don't care if it's a medal from the President of the United States," Pemberton replied, his voice taking on a sharper tone. "In this court, witnesses don't wear decorations or symbols that could unduly influence the jury. It's a matter of impartiality. Remove it now." The silence that followed was deafening. Amanda felt the blood rush to her face, a mixture of shame and indignation burning in her veins. She had risked her life countless times, bore burn scars on her arms and back, had lost colleagues in devastating fires, and now she was being treated as if she were trying to manipulate the judicial system with a piece of metal in her chest. "Your Excellency, with all due respect," Amanda tried again, keeping her voice steady despite the emotional storm she felt inside. "This medal represents years of dedicated service protecting lives. It's not a fashion accessory. It's an integral part of my official uniform." Pemberton's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Miss Torres, I will not repeat my order a 3rd time. Either you remove that medal immediately, or you will be considered in contempt of court. And I can assure you that contempt results in instant imprisonment and substantial fines. The choice is yours." Amanda felt her hands tremble slightly as she brought them to her chest. Everyone in the courtroom watched in awkward silence. The prosecutor seemed torn between intervening and keeping his mouth shut. The defense attorney had a discreet smile on his lips, clearly pleased with any distraction that might benefit his client. The jury members watched with expressions ranging from curiosity to discomfort. She began to unbuckle her medal when the double doors of the courtroom burst open with a bang that made everyone turn their heads. Chief Marcus Wellington entered the room with determined steps, his imposing presence filling the space. At 55 years old, with his gray hair cut in a military style and a posture that demonstrated decades of leadership, Wellington was a respected figure not only in the fire department, but throughout the Colorado community. He wore his full chief's uniform, adorned with numerous medals and insignia that documented a legendary career spanning more than 30 years fighting fires. "I apologize for interrupting, Your Excellency," Wellington said, his deep voice echoing through the room. "But I couldn't help but overhear from the hallway the order he just gave to Firefighter Torres." Pemberton straightened in his chair, clearly irritated by the intrusion. "And who exactly are you to interrupt the proceedings of my court?" "Chief Marcus Wellington, Denver Fire Department. I am here both as Firefighter Torres' superior and as a concerned citizen about what appears to be a profound disrespect, not only to an exemplary firefighter, but to the fire department as an institution." Pemberton's face flushed red. "Watch your words, Chief Wellington. This is my court, and here the rules are mine. I will not tolerate being accused of disrespect for enforcing established protocols." Wellington took a few more steps toward the witness stand, positioning himself next to Amanda in an unmistakable gesture of solidarity. "With all due respect, Your Honor, the protocol you are invoking does not apply to official emergency service uniforms. I personally verified this before coming here. Court rules specify that witnesses should not wear jewelry or personal adornments that could create bias. Official public service medals are explicitly excluded from this restriction." There was a murmur in the courtroom. Pemberton quickly flipped through some papers on his desk, his discomfort becoming visible. "That's a very convenient interpretation of the rules, Chief Wellington." "It's not interpretation, Your Excellency. It's the letter of the law. If you wish, I can cite the exact statute and legal precedent that supports it. In fact, Wellington pulled a folded document from the inside pocket of his jacket. I brought a copy of the Colorado Judicial Regulation that specifies exactly that. Paragraph 3, Section B, Subsection 2. Official uniforms of emergency services, military or law enforcement must be worn in their entirety when the testimony directly relates to official duties. The silence that followed was different from the previous one. This time, it was Judge Pemberton who seemed to be writhing inwardly. He extended his hand, stiffly, and Wellington climbed onto the dais to hand him the document. Pemberton read quickly, his jaw visibly tensing with each line. Amanda stood still, her hand still resting on the medal half fastened on her uniform, watching the scene unfold. She had known Wellington for 8 years, since he joined the fire department after serving 4 years in the National Guard. He had always been a firm but fair leader, someone who defended his firefighters tooth and nail when necessary. But seeing him confront a judge in open court was something she had never imagined witnessing. "Your Excellency," Wellington continued, his voice maintaining a respectful but inflexible tone, "Firefighter Torres is here today because she has been summoned to testify about her professional investigation of an arson fire. She is not here as an ordinary citizen. She is here as an official representative of the Denver Fire Department, and as such, she has not only the right, but the obligation to wear her full and appropriate uniform. To ask her to remove a Medal of Honor is equivalent to asking a police officer to remove their insignia, or a soldier to remove their rank insignia." The prosecutor finally found his voice. "If I may, Your Excellency, I agree with Chief Wellington. The credibility of the witness in this case is directly linked to her expertise and experience as a firefighter. Her uniform and decorations are relevant to establishing her qualifications." Pemberton looked at the prosecutor with an expression that could melt steel. "Thank you for your opinion, Counselor, though I don't recall asking for it." The defense attorney stood up quickly. "Your Honor, if I may object, all this discussion about uniforms and medals is significantly delaying the proceedings. My client is entitled to a swift and efficient trial." "Sit down," Pemberton ordered curtly. "If there's any delay here, it was caused by my own hasty decision, not by the actions of Firefighter Torres or Chief Wellington." Everyone in the courtroom seemed to be holding their breath. It was extremely rare to see a judge like Pemberton admit, even indirectly, to an error in judgment. Amanda felt a wave of relief begin to replace the tension she had been holding back. Wellington seized the moment. "Your Excellency, if I may add something, the medal that Firefighter Torres is wearing was awarded just 3 days ago in a ceremony attended by the governor, the mayor of Denver, and several members of the city council. It was news in all the local newspapers. She received this honor for rescuing 3 children from an apartment fire in the city center, returning to the burning building after initially being prevented by her superiors because the structure was about to collapse. 2 of those children would not be alive today if it weren't for Firefighter Torres' exceptional courage." Amanda felt tears burning in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here, not now. She had learned long ago that showing emotion in high-pressure situations was often interpreted as weakness, especially for a woman in a male-dominated field. "The medal isn't on Firefighter Torres' chest to impress anyone or influence a jury," Wellington continued. "It's there because she earned it with blood, sweat, and a courage that most of us will never be called upon to demonstrate. To ask her to remove it is not only disrespectful, Your Excellency, it's a fundamental denial of the sacrifice she and all members of the emergency services make daily for this community." Pemberton closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them again, he seemed to have aged 10 years. "Chief Wellington, Firefighter Torres, he paused, clearly unaccustomed to the words he was about to pronounce, "made a mistake based on an excessively rigid and, as has been correctly pointed out, incorrect application of the rules of the court. Firefighter Torres, please keep your medal and accept my apologies for the inappropriate way I treated you." The relief Amanda felt was almost physical. She nodded, not trusting her voice at that moment. Wellington placed a hand briefly on her shoulder, a gesture of support and silent pride, before turning to leave the courtroom. But before he could take more than 2 steps, Pemberton spoke again. "Chief Wellington, 1 moment, please." Wellington stopped and turned around. "Yes, Your Excellency. You mentioned that Firefighter Torres returned to a building on the verge of collapse against direct orders. As commander, how did you handle this insubordination?" The question caught everyone off guard. Wellington smiled slightly. Your Excellency, there is a difference between insubordination and heroic initiative. Firefighter Torres made a split-second decision based on her professional assessment of the situation. Yes, she disobeyed a direct order. And yes, I formally reprimanded her for it. But I also recommended her for the highest honor our department can bestow, because ultimately, 3 children are alive today because of her decision. As a leader, my job is not only to enforce rules, but to recognize when human judgment and compassion should override protocol. There was something in the way Wellington said it that made Pemberton recoil slightly. It was a veiled but powerful criticism, wrapped in an administrative explanation. I understand, Pemberton said calmly, and I appreciate the lesson, Chief Wellington. This hearing will have a 15-minute recess. When we return, we will continue with Firefighter Torres's testimony, without further interruption. He banged the gavel and stood, quickly leaving the room through his private office. The immediate buzz that followed was deafening. Reporters who were present began typing frantically on their laptops, aware that they had a significant story on their hands. Jury members spoke amongst themselves in hushed voices, clearly impacted by what they had witnessed. Amanda finally allowed herself to take a deep breath. Wellington approached her again. Are you all right, Torres? I'm fine now, boss. Thank you for that. How did you know I was having problems? Wellington smiled. The court security officer called me. He's a veteran, a former New York firefighter. When he heard what was happening, he thought I'd want to know. He was right. I didn't know whether I should fight it or simply remove the medal and move on, Amanda admitted, her voice low so only Wellington could hear. Part of me felt that making a big fuss over a medal was self-centered. It wasn't about ego, Torres, Wellington replied firmly. It was about respect. Respect for your work, for our department, and for everything this medal represents. You did the right thing by questioning the order, and I did the right thing by supporting it. The prosecutor approached them, extending his hand to Wellington. Chief, that was impressive, and thank you for bringing up this regulation. I should have known the law better. We all make mistakes, Wellington replied, shaking her hand. The important thing is to correct them when possible. During recess, Amanda went to the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. Her uniform was still immaculate, her medal shining exactly where it should be. But she could see in her own eyes the emotional toll of the last half hour. Being publicly humiliated, even if the humiliation was later rectified, left its mark. She thought of the 3 children she had rescued that fateful night. 7-year-old Maya had been knocked unconscious by smoke inhalation. 5-year-old Dylan was hiding under a bed, paralyzed with fear. And little Sophie, just 3 years old, was trapped in a room whose ceiling was already beginning to collapse. Amanda had found Maya first, carrying her downstairs through burning corridors. Then she had returned to Dylan, practically tearing the bed from the wall to reach him. And then, when everyone said it was too late, when the structure was groaning and twisting around her, she had made the 3rd trip to Sophie. She remembered the weight of the little girl in her arms as she ran, flames licking her back, pieces of the ceiling falling around her. She remembered finally emerging from the building at the exact moment the stairway she had run down collapsed in a roar of fire and debris. She remembered falling to her knees on the asphalt, still holding Sophie, the paramedics rushing to them as the building imploded behind them. This medal wasn't just metal. It was a symbol of everything she had risked, of everything she stood for as a firefighter. And Pemberton had tried to reduce it to a mere ornament, something so insignificant that it should be removed for procedural convenience. But Wellington had fought for her, not just for the medal, but for what it meant. And that was something Amanda would never forget. When she returned to the courtroom, the atmosphere had changed. The looks she received were now of respect, not morbid curiosity. Even the defense attorney seemed to have lost some of his previous enthusiasm. Pemberton returned promptly after 15 minutes, his expression carefully neutral. Firefighter Torres, please resume your seat on the witness stand. And again, please accept my apologies for the previous incident. Amanda nodded and sat down, her posture erect and professional. The prosecutor began his questioning, asking about her findings in the fire investigation, about evidence of accelerants, about burn patterns that indicated a criminal origin. Amanda answered each question with precision and confidence, her expertise evident in every word. During her testimony, she occasionally noticed Pemberton watching her with a thoughtful expression. There was something different in his gaze now, a quality she couldn't quite identify. Respect, perhaps. Or possibly just the uncomfortable awareness of someone who had been publicly corrected. When the defense attorney had his turn to question her, he tried to challenge her qualifications, suggest that her conclusions were premature, and imply that she had contaminated the crime scene. But Amanda stood firm, responding to each attack calmly and with facts. Her medal shone on her chest like a silent shield, a tangible reminder that she had faced far worse than an aggressive lawyer. Finally, after nearly 2 hours of testimony, Amanda was dismissed. She stood up, bowed respectfully to the judge as protocol required, and began walking toward the exit. "Firefighter Torres?" Pemberton's voice stopped her as she was almost at the door. "Can I speak with you for a moment? Off the record?" Amanda looked at the prosecutor, who shrugged, indicating that she was free to accept or refuse. She hesitated for only a second before nodding affirmatively and approaching the platform. Pemberton leaned forward, his voice low enough for only Amanda to hear. "I wanted to explain something. What I did earlier wasn't just a technicality about the rules of the court. It was something deeper than that. I've been a judge for 23 years, and over those years, I've developed certain, shall we say, biases about uniforms and medals. I've seen many people use them to impress, to add undeserved credibility to their testimony. I've seen corrupt police officers hiding behind badges, soldiers exaggerating their service. I've become cynical, and that cynicism has blinded me today." Amanda said nothing, waiting to see where he was going. What Chief Wellington said about human judgment overriding protocol struck me, because that's exactly what you did in that fire, and that's exactly what I failed to do today. I hid behind protocol instead of exercising human judgment. So, I wanted you to know that my apology wasn't just because I was proven technically wrong. It was because I was fundamentally wrong in my assessment of you and what your medal represents. Amanda was surprised by the vulnerability in his voice. "Thank you for telling me that, Your Excellency, and I accept your apology." Pemberton nodded, clearly relieved. "One last thing. Those 3 children you rescued, do you still have contact with them?" "With their families, yes. Maya sends me drawings every month. Dylan wants to be a firefighter when he grows up. And Sophie, well, she's still very young, but her mother told me that she always asks to see the fire lady whenever she sees a fire truck." For the first time since Amanda had entered the courtroom, Pemberton smiled genuinely. "So this medal isn't just about courage in a moment of crisis. It's about 3 lives that continue because of that courage, 3 futures that still exist. When I look at it that way, my earlier action seems even more foolish." Amanda held her medal for a moment. "It's not foolish to question and verify, Your Excellency. It's only human. But it's also human to acknowledge when we're wrong and to make amends. You did both today." She left the courtroom feeling strangely at peace. What could have been one of the worst experiences of her career had turned into something different, something that affirmed not only her own worth, but the value of the work she and all her colleagues did every day. And all this because her boss had shown up when she needed him most, refusing to let her be diminished or disrespected. Outside, in the courthouse parking lot, Wellington was waiting, leaning against his official vehicle. "Everything all right in there? Better than I expected. Thank you again, boss, for everything." Wellington smiled. "That's why I'm here, Torres, to ensure my people are treated with the respect they deserve. Now go home and rest. You have the next 2 days off. Use them well." As Amanda drove home that afternoon, the medal still pinned to her uniform, she reflected on the strange nature of the day. She had faced humiliation. She had been defended. She had witnessed a powerful judge admit a mistake. And through it all, she had kept her dignity and integrity intact. This, she realized, was a victory as important as any rescue she had ever carried out. When Amanda arrived home that late afternoon, the apartment was silent, except for the purring of her orange cat, Ember, who greeted her at the door with his characteristic meow. She carefully hung her uniform in the closet, but kept the medal pinned to the fabric, unable to separate it yet. There was something about the weight of that medal that comforted her now, tangible proof that the day had ended on its own terms. His phone began vibrating incessantly. Messages from fellow firefighters started pouring in. News of the confrontation in court had spread rapidly through the informal network of first responders. Tommy Chen, a 15-year veteran who had been his initial mentor, sent a short but meaningful message. "I heard what happened. Wellington is a giant, and so are you, Torres." Rebecca Sandoval, One of the few other women at the station called, directly. "Amanda, everyone's talking about this. Are you really okay?" "I'm fine, Becca." It was intense, but it ended well. Wellington showed up like a superhero in costume. "Typical of the boss," Rebecca laughed. "He'd do anything for us. But you know he could only do what he did because you stood your ground first, right? You didn't give in immediately. You questioned the order. That took courage." Amanda hadn't thought about it that way. "I was just trying not to fall apart right there in front of everyone." "Exactly. And you didn't fall apart. You remained professional, stood up for what was right, and gave your boss the opportunity to support you. If you had simply removed the medal without question, it would have been a completely different story." After hanging up with Rebecca, Amanda made some tea and sat on the small balcony of her apartment, overlooking the Rocky Mountains in the distance. The sky was tinged with oranges and pinks as the sun set, creating the kind of natural beauty that always reminded her why she had chosen to live in Colorado. She thought about what Rebecca had said. There was courage not only in running into burning buildings, but also in standing up for principles when it would be easier to simply obey. Throughout her career, Amanda had faced moments where she had to choose between conformity and conviction, like when she had reported a colleague for inappropriate behavior during a rescue, even knowing it would make her unpopular, like when she had advocated for changes to safety protocols after a young firefighter nearly died due to inadequate equipment, like when she had refused to accept sexist jokes as simply part of the fire department culture. Each of those choices had come at a cost: friendships, popularity, the comfortable feeling of belonging without question. But each had also reinforced something essential in her identity. She wasn't there just to be another cog in the machine. She was there to do the job as best as she could, and to improve the system whenever she saw flaws. Her phone rang again, this time a number she didn't recognize. "Hello? Firefighter Torres? This is Patricia Morgan, a reporter for the Denver Post. I'd like to talk to you about the incident in court today." Amanda hesitated. Publicity had never been something she sought. "I'm not sure there's much to say. It was a misunderstanding that was resolved." With all due respect, Firefighter Torres, it was more than that. It was a significant moment about respect for first responders and about how the judicial system interacts with emergency services. Many readers would like to hear your perspective. "I need to think about it. Can I call you back?" "Of course. But just so you know, I already have statements from several people who were in court. It would be better if your voice were part of the narrative." After she hung up, Amanda considered the offer. Part of her just wanted to let the day die quietly, file it away as another strange experience in a career full of them. But another part recognized that perhaps there was value in sharing the story, not for personal glorification, but because it could help other people in similar situations. She called Wellington. "Boss, a reporter wants to do an interview about today. What do you think?" "It's your choice, Torres. But if you decide to speak, just be honest. Don't exaggerate, don't downplay. Just tell what happened." "And what about the department? Will this cause problems with public relations?" Wellington laughed. "Torres, the department looks great in this story. A decorated firefighter is unjustly disrespected. Her boss defends her. A judge admits his mistake. It's a story about people doing the right thing. I don't see any problem with it." Amanda called Patricia Morgan back and agreed to a brief phone interview. She told the story simply, without dramatic embellishment, focusing on the facts and respectful resolution. When Patricia asked how she felt when Pemberton ordered her to remove the medal, Amanda paused before answering. "I felt invisible, as if all the risks I had taken, all the lives I had helped save, were reduced to nothing more than a procedural inconvenience. But what happened next reminded me that I'm not alone. I have a supportive boss, colleagues who care, and a system that, when pushed, can still correct its own mistakes." The story was published the following morning, a balanced piece that captured the essence of the incident without sensationalizing it. To Amanda's surprise, it generated a significant response. She received messages from firefighters across the country, many sharing their own stories of being disrespected or underestimated in professional settings. Several were women who had faced similar challenges in male-dominated fields. One message in particular touched her deeply. It was from a young woman named Jasmine who was considering joining the fire department, but was afraid she would never be fully accepted or respected. "Your story gave me hope," Jasmine wrote. "Not because it was easy for you, but because you persevered even when it was difficult, and because you have people who fight for you when needed." Amanda responded personally, encouraging Jasmine to follow her dream. I'm not going to lie and say it's easy. It's not, but it's incredibly rewarding. And things are getting better, slowly. Each one of us who perseveres makes the path a little easier for the next. A few days later, Amanda was called into Wellington's office. She entered somewhat nervously, unsure of what to expect. Wellington was seated behind his desk, but there was another person in the room, a professional-looking woman in a formal suit. Torres, this is Sarah Chen from the mayor's office. She has a proposal for you. Sarah stood up and shook Amanda's hand warmly. Firefighter Torres, it's an honor to meet you. The mayor was very impressed not only with your courage in rescuing the children, but also with how you handled the situation in court. He would like to appoint you to our new advisory committee on first responders, a group that will work directly with the mayor's office to improve policies and procedures related to emergency services. Amanda looked at Wellington, who nodded encouragingly. It's a great opportunity, Torres, a chance to make a difference on a systemic level. I have no experience with politics or policymaking, Amanda admitted. We're not looking for politicians, Sarah replied. We're looking for people with real-world experience who understand the practical challenges first responders face every day. Their knowledge and perspective would be invaluable. Amanda considered the offer. It was an opportunity to expand her impact beyond the individual fires she fought, to help shape systems that could improve conditions for all firefighters. How much of a commitment would be required? Monthly meetings, plus some occasional preparatory work. It wouldn't significantly interfere with their regular duties. Then I accept. It would be an honor to serve. Wellington smiled broadly. Excellent. And Torres, there's one more thing. After much consideration, I've decided to promote you to lieutenant. You've demonstrated exceptional leadership, both in emergency situations and in challenging professional contexts. Are you ready to take on more responsibility? Amanda felt a surge of emotion in her chest. Lieutenant? It was a position she had worked towards for years, patiently waiting her turn. Yes, sir. Absolutely. That night, Amanda visited the family of Maya, one of the children she had rescued. They had invited her for dinner, something they had done regularly since the fire. Maya's mother, Jennifer, opened the door with a warm hug. We heard about what happened in court, Jennifer said as she set the table, and about your promotion. We're so proud of you. Maya ran to Amanda with a new drawing, this one showing a figure in a firefighter's uniform with a large gold medal on its chest. It's you being super brave, the 7-year-old explained with seriousness. Amanda held the drawing carefully, her eyes welling up with tears. Thank you, Maya. I'll keep this forever. During dinner, Maya's father, Robert, asked a question Amanda hadn't expected. How do you deal with fear? When you went into that building for the 3rd time, you knew you might not get out. How do you do it? Amanda thought carefully before answering. Honestly, Robert, I don't think it's about not being afraid. It's about deciding that some things are more important than fear. That night, Sophie's life was more important than my safety. In court, defending what was right was more important than avoiding confrontation. The fear is still there. You just choose to act despite it. That's real courage, Jennifer said softly. Not the absence of fear, but choosing despite fear. As Amanda drove home later that night, she reflected on everything that had happened since that fateful morning in court. A moment that could have broken her had instead revealed strength she didn't even fully know she possessed. It had shown the value of having allies who are willing to fight for you. It had demonstrated that systems, though imperfect, can still self-correct when confronted with truth and courage. She thought of all the young women like Jasmine she was watching, deciding whether to pursue challenging careers in fields where they might not be immediately accepted or respected. She hoped her story would give them not false assurances that it would be easy, but genuine hope that it would be possible and worthwhile. The medal still hung on her uniform in the locker, gleaming softly in the room's light. It wasn't just a piece of metal now. It was a symbol of everything she had overcome to get where she was, and a reminder of everything she would continue to fight for. It was a promise to herself to never allow herself to be diminished, and a commitment to stand up for others facing similar challenges. When Amanda finally fell asleep that night, she had the peaceful feeling that she had found her place not only as a firefighter, but as a leader, advocate, and role model. The road ahead would still hold challenges, she knew that, but now she had more tools, more allies, and more confidence in her own ability to navigate whatever came next. And that, she realized, was all anyone could really ask for.